Welcome to the channel. Sometimes the scariest places aren't haunted houses, but the ones you choose to visit yourself. Tonight, we follow Liam and Marcus into a remote cabin deep in the Appalachian woods, where silence hides something watching. Stay with me, because what they discover is far more terrifying than they ever imagined.
It was supposed to be a quiet weekend in the mountains. Liam wasn't the outdoorsy type, but after a relentless few months working as a software analyst in Chicago, he felt like he was suffocating. So when his coworker, Marcus, suggested a secluded Airbnb deep in the Appalachian woods, he agreed without asking too many questions. Just us, no phones, no work. Marcus had said. Off-grid, for real, you'll thank me. They arrived on a Thursday afternoon. The place was more isolated than Liam expected. About 30 minutes off the main road on a dirt path that wound through dense pine forest. There was no cell reception, and the nearest neighbor was a half-mile away. According to the listing, the cabin itself was charming, if a bit worn. 2 stories. All wood, with a wraparound porch that creaked under their boots. The air smelled of moss and firewood. The silence was immediate and deep, pressing in on all sides. The first night was uneventful. They grilled steaks, played cards, drank too much whiskey. The silence outside was unsettling, but Liam chalked it up to being a city boy unaccustomed to a place where you could actually hear your own heartbeat. It wasn't until the second night that things started to feel ... off. They had just finished dinner and were sitting by the fire when Marcus got up to grab another beer. As he passed by the front window, he paused. "You see that?" he asked. Liam turned. "See what I thought?" "I saw someone standing out by the trees." Liam stood next to him. The porch light was on, casting a dull yellow circle into the woods. Beyond that, nothing but shadows. "I don't see anything," Liam said. Marcus stared a second longer, then shook his head. "Probably a deer or something." But his voice lacked conviction. That night, Liam couldn't sleep. Not because of what Marcus had said. He figured it really was just an animal, but because of the oppressive stillness outside. No wind, no insects, no night sounds at all. At around 3:12 a.m., he gave up trying to sleep and went downstairs for water. As he passed by the living room window, he froze. There, just at the edge of the tree line, far enough that the porch light barely reached, but close enough to sit, looked like a man, not moving, just standing. He blinked, stepped closer to the glass. The figure was tall, thin, wearing something dark, maybe a hoodie or coat. No details, just an outline. But what disturbed Liam wasn't just the fact that someone was out there at 3 a.m. in the woods. It was that the figure didn't move, didn't shift weight, didn't pace, just stood. Liam stood there, heart pounding, staring out for what felt like 10 minutes. When he finally dared to look away for a second, to glance at his phone, even though there was no signal, the figure was gone. When he looked back, he didn't wake Marcus. He didn't want to sound crazy. Instead, he told himself it was a trick of the eye. Maybe he was still half-dash asleep the next morning. Neither of them mentioned the night before. Liam wasn't even sure if Marcus had seen anything else. They ate breakfast in silence. The coffee tasted burnt. The eggs were overcooked. Everything felt a little ... off. Around noon, they decided to hike a trail they'd seen on the map. It started just behind the cabin and looped around the back ridge. The air was colder than it had been the day before, and Liam noticed that the deeper they walked into the forest, the quieter it got. It was during that hike that they saw something hanging from a tree about 20 minutes in, a wind chime made from animal bones and twine, swaying slightly though there was no breeze. Marcus laughed nervously, some hiker's idea of a joke, but there were no signs of recent human activity, no footprints, no wrappers, no tire tracks on the narrow trail, and the twine looked old, brittle, as if it had been there for years. That night, neither of them joked or drank. Liam brought up the figure he'd seen at 3 a.m. Marcus went pale. "I saw him too," he whispered. "Last night, same place." I didn't want to say anything. They decided to stay inside, lock the doors, keep the lights low. It was supposed to make them feel safer. It didn't. At 2:46 a.m., the power went out, not with a bongno storm, no flicker, just total blackout. 1 second, everything was normal. The next, silence and darkness swallowed the house. Liam reached for his phone. Still no signal. He grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer and turned it on. That's when they heard it scratching, slow, deliberate, right against the wall outside. Not like an animal, too slow, too ... human. Marcus motioned for him to stay quiet. They crept to the living room window. The porch light, which should have been out, along with the power, was still on, and the man was back, closer now, standing on the porch, not 5 feet from the window, still silent, head tilted slightly, as if listening. But the part that made Liam's blood turn to ice was that his face was completely obscured, not by shadow, by something else. A mask, a cloth. No, it looked like a sack, rough fabric, holes where the eyes should be. The man reached out, not at the mat, the window frame, fingers curling slightly against the wood, testing it. Liam grabbed Marcus's arm and pulled him back. They didn't breathe. After a few minutes, the scratching stopped. But when they checked again, the man was gone, and carved into the wood of the porch, right below the window, were 5 long, thin scratches, like something had been marking the cabin, like a warning or a signature. Morning came, but the air inside the cabin felt unchanged, heavy, stale, electric, with leftover fear. Liam hadn't slept. He lay still in his bed until the light creeping through the wooden slats of the blinds gave him permission to move. Marcus was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, still in the clothes he'd worn the night before. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands clasped tightly around a mug of cold coffee. "You sleep?" Liam asked. Marcus didn't answer right away. Then, without looking up, he touched the window. Liam nodded slowly. "I saw." Neither of them brought up the scratches carved into the porch wood. Neither wanted to admit what they both knew, that someone had been out there. That maybe he still was. Liam checked his phone again. Still no service. Still no power. The gas stove worked, so he managed to heat up some water for instant coffee, but it tasted like dirt. The entire cabin smelled wrong now, like mildew and rot, faint but persistent, clinging to the back of the throat. "Let's go into town," Marcus said. "Find help. This place isn't safe." But the map on the wall showed that the closest town was over an hour's drive down winding roads. That was assuming they didn't get stuck in the soft dirt path that had brought them here. And there was another problem. Liam walked outside first, heart hammering. The morning sun filtered through the trees, giving everything a surreal, golden glow. But as he rounded the cabin toward where they'd parked the SUV, his breath caught. Asterisk, 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 the tires were slashed. All four. Marcus swore loudly when he saw. "We didn't hear anything last night." "No," Liam said. "Not a thing." There were no footprints, no tire marks leading in or out, no sign of anyone or anything having come up the path. The dirt was dry and untouched. They both looked toward the woods. The trees stood motionless, thick and close, like an audience, watching in silence. "We walk, then," Marcus said. "Pack light and go." They went inside and started throwing necessities into their backpacks: water bottles, protein bars, flashlights. Liam grabbed the cabin keys and paused. "The porch. Light stayed on when the power went out," he said. Marcus looked at him. "Yeah, how?" They exchanged a long glance. That's when the knock came. 3 soft raps on the front door. They froze. Liam's blood turned to ice. Another knock, louder than silence. Liam crept to the door and peeked. Through the peephole, nothing. The forest swayed gently in the distance. The porch was empty. He turned back toward Marcus and nearly screamed. A figure was standing in the hallway, inside the cabin. For a split second, Liam's brain refused to process what he was seeing. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't any person he recognized. The figure stood just at the edge of the hallway's shadow, tall and unmoving, a sack or cloth pulled tightly over its head. "The same one from the porch," Liam shouted. But by the time Marcus turned, the hallway was empty again. "Someone was there," Liam panted. "Inside. We're leaving." Now they bolted, backpacks half-sipped, and didn't bother locking the cabin. The trail that led into the woods behind the cabin connected, eventually, to the dirt road they'd come in on. If they could make it to the junction, maybe someone would pass by. Maybe they could find a ranger station or an outpost. They walked for nearly an hour. The trees grew thicker, the air colder. No birds, no squirrels, no sound except their footsteps and the occasional crack of a twig. Then they reached the clearing. It wasn't on the map. Roughly circular, maybe 40 feet across. In the center stood a tall wooden structure, like a crude totem or effigy, made of branches and bones, lashed together with twine. Symbols were etched into the dirt surrounding it. Circles, crosses, something like runes. And hanging from the top of the structure, swinging slightly in the breeze, was a cloth sack, just like the one the man wore. Marcus whispered, "We went the wrong way." As if in response, something moved at the far edge of the clearing. Liam turned. A shadow darted between the trees, then another, opposite side. More shapes, moving quickly but silently, surrounding the clearing. "We're not alone," Liam said. They didn't run. Running felt like it would trigger something. Instead, they backed away, step by step, trying not to look directly at the effigy. But the woods didn't let them out. Every path they tried led them back to the clearing. Time lost meaning. The sky darkened too quickly, like dusk came early, and then Marcus was gone. One moment he was behind Liam, the next just silence. Marcus. Liam turned in a full circle. Marcus. Nothing. Panic swelled. He turned and sprinted in the direction they had come. At least he hoped it was the same way. The trees looked identical, the terrain repeated like a bad dream. And all the while, he could feel something behind him, following, not chasing. just ... walking, as if it knew he would get tired before it did. When Liam finally burst through the tree line and saw the cabin again, he almost cried with relief. He ran inside, slammed the door, bolted it shut, and then froze. On the wall above the fireplace, written in charcoal, were words that hadn't been there before. "You left him." The air was colder inside than it had been outside. His breath fogged as he stumbled backward. The power was still out. The porch light still glowed, and outside, standing just beyond the window, was the figure. But this time, he wasn't alone. 4 more shapes stood behind him, same height, same sacks, covering their heads, all still, all watching. Liam backed away, until he hit the wall. He didn't scream, he just whispered Marcus's name, but no one answered. Liam's pulse thundered in his ears, so loud he wondered if the figures outside could hear it too. He stood with his back pressed against the wall, staring at the faint silhouettes on the porch. 5 of them now, all the same height, all with those rough, sack-like coverings pulled tight over their heads. They didn't move, but the stillness felt worse than any sudden lunge could have. He closed his eyes for a moment, whispering Marcus's name like a prayer. No answer. When he opened them again, the porch was empty. His breath hitched. He stumbled forward, pulling back the curtain, searching the yard, the tree line, the shadows, nothing. The forest stood motionless, a graveyard of tall pines, watching without blinking. Then he heard it, a scrape inside the house. He spun around, the weak beam of his flashlight jittering across the wooden walls. The sound had come from the kitchen. His mouth went dry. He crept forward, every step on the creaking floor like a gunshot in the silence. When he reached the kitchen doorway, the flashlight beam swept across the counter. The bread knife was gone. He knew, with a deep sinking in his gut, that he hadn't touched it. Neither had Marcus. A faint thump came from upstairs. He froze. The cabin had only 2 floors. The bedrooms were up there. He'd left the lights off, but he could see a faint glow bleeding from under the door of the master bedroom. He hadn't turned that light on. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to run into the trees and never come back. But Marcus was still missing, and some part of Liam couldn't shake the thought. What if Marcus was upstairs? Swallowing his fear, he crept up the stairs. Each step groaned under his weight. The glow grew brighter. He reached the landing, his hand slick on the flashlight handle. The door was cracked open an inch. He pushed. The light inside wasn't from a lamp. Dozens of candles flickered on the floor, arranged in a rough circle. Their flames cast long, shuddering shadows across the wooden walls. And in the middle of the circle, carved into the floorboards, was a symbol. Not one he recognized. A circle intersected by jagged lines, smeared dark as though drawn in ash or something worse. Liam's stomach lurched, and then he saw Marcus. He was sitting against the far wall, knees pulled to his chest, eyes wide and glassy. His lips moved, forming silent words. "Marcus," Liam whispered hoarsely, stepping forward. Marcus didn't react, didn't blink. He just kept mouthing something, his eyes locked on the symbol at his feet. Liam rushed toward him, grabbing his shoulders. Marcus flinched violently, like a marionette yanked on strings, and his mouth finally gave voice to the word he'd been repeating. "Don't?" The single word cut through Liam like ice. "What, Marcus? We need to get out of here. Don't." Louder this time, his pupils dilated, breath coming in short bursts. "They'll hear you." Liam's heart crashed against his ribs. Who? Marcus's gaze flicked upward to the ceiling above them before Liam could ask again. The candles flickered all at once. The air shifted as if a door had opened, though none had. A faint whisper crawled across the room, threading through the candlelight. Not words, not exactly, more like the echo of something ancient and patient. The wood above them creaked. Liam looked up. Something moved across the ceiling. He staggered back, pulling Marcus with him, but Marcus resisted, digging his heels into the floor. His eyes never left the symbol. They marked us, Marcus whispered, tears spilling over. It's too late. Liam shook him, desperate. No, we can still get out. We can run. The whispering grew louder, layering over itself until it became a low, droning hum. The candles bent toward the symbol, flames stretching unnaturally long. And then, from the hallway outside the bedroom, came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. Liam's flashlight flickered, then died. The footsteps stopped. Just outside the door, silence, then a knock. 3 soft raps. Liam's throat tightened. His trembling hand reached for the door butt before he touched it. The handle turned on its own. The door creaked open. No one was there. The hallway was empty, and yet the whispering was now behind him. He spun around. Marcus was gone. The circle of candles still burned, but the wall where Marcus had been sitting was bare. No trace, as if he had never been there at all. Marcus, Liam shouted, his voice cracking. No answer. The droning hum surged, pressing against his skull, forcing his knees to buckle. He stumbled out of the room, down the stairs, half blind with panic. He had to get out of the cabin, into the open air. He threw the front door open. The porch light glared brighter than ever, burning a sickly yellow, and standing beneath it, filling the entire porch, were the figures. Not 5 anymore, 7. All identical. All with the same rough sack masks, heads tilted as one. Liam staggered back into the living room, but the door slammed shut behind him, sealing him in. The whispering stopped, and in its place, a voice, soft, clear, right beside his ear. You left him. Liam spun, swinging the dead flashlight wildly, but there was no one there. Only the fireplace, and above it the message had changed. Now, it's your turn. The air grew so cold he could see his breath spilling into the dark. The figures outside pressed closer to the windows, their faceless masks nearly brushing the glass. Liam backed against the wall, chest heaving. Then the light scandal's porch. All at once went out. Darkness. Darkness. And in the suffocating black, he felt it, a hand on his shoulder.
Welcome to the channel. It was supposed to be a simple camping trip before senior year. No parents, no rules, just a few friends in the woods. But when Jason vanished without a trace, what began as a weekend escape turned into a nightmare. A year later, his brother still gets calls, always at 2:13 a.m. Tonight, you'll hear the story of what really happened in those woods.
It was supposed to be a quick weekend escape. Just a few high school boys camping out in the woods before senior year started. No parents, no phones, no curfew. Just firewood, tents, and stories. For Derek, it was the last trip before his younger brother Jason left for college. They had done this before, though never this far from town. The trail was marked, but barely. The deeper they went into the Appalachian forest, the more it felt like stepping into another world. Cell reception vanished within the first mile, and even the sunlight seemed filtered dimmer somehow, as if the canopy above was thicker than normal. There were 5 of them: Derek, his brother Jason, their longtime friend Carter, and 2 of Jason's classmates, Liam and Ben. Derek didn't know the younger boys that well, but they seemed decent loud, but harmless. They reached the clearing just before sundown. It was a wide patch of grass surrounded by towering oaks, with a stream trickling nearby. Carter had marked it on an old map his uncle gave him. Used to be a logging site, he'd said. Abandoned since the 70s. Nobody comes out here anymore. That should have been a red flag. But they were 17 and 18 years old, fueled by energy drinks and a sense of invincibility. Nothing bad ever happened on camping trips. At worst, someone sprained an ankle or got poison ivy. They set up the tents, gathered firewood, and by nightfall were roasting hot dogs and telling horror stories. Derek noticed Jason was quieter than usual, distracted. When he asked, Jason brushed it off. Just tired, he said. Long hike. But Derek had seen his brother tired before. This wasn't that. There was something else, nervous energy, maybe. Like he knew something the rest of them. DIDN, single quotes to around midnight. The fire died down to embers. Liam had passed out in his sleeping bag near the pit. Carter and Ben were still arguing about whether wolves or coyotes were more common in this region. Jason stood up and walked toward the edge of the clearing. "Where you going?" Derek called out. Jason looked over his shoulder. "Just need to take a leak." He didn't come back. At first, no one noticed. Derek fell asleep shortly after Jason left. When he woke up to birdsong and morning sun, he assumed his brother was still in his tent. But when he unzipped the flap, Jason's sleeping bag was untouched. "Hey," Derek called, emerging into the clearing. "Jay, you up already?" No answer. The others stirred awake, groggy and annoyed. Carter scratched his head. "Maybe he's at the stream." They searched. For 20 minutes, nothing. No sign of him along the path, by the water, or in the trees. His phone was in the tent, along with his wallet and flashlight. That's when the worry kicked in. "He wouldn't just wander off," Derek said. "Not without telling me." They split up and searched farther. Liam and Ben hiked down the trail. For half a mile, calling his name. Carter tried looping around the old logging road, but the forest was too big, too dense. After 2 hours, they regrouped, sweaty, panicked, and unsure of what to do. "We need to call someone," Derek said. "But we don't have signal," Carter replied. "We have to hike back to the truck." It took them nearly 2 hours to make it back to the trailhead. Carter drove the battered pickup into the nearest town, where they found a ranger station and reported Jason missing. Search and rescue teams were deployed that afternoon. Drones, dogs, even helicopters. They scoured the woods for 3 days. Nothing, no footprints, no torn clothing, no blood, no body. It was like Jason had evaporated. Back home, Derek was shattered. His parents barely spoke. His mother cried herself to sleep every night. His father sat in the living room with the TV on, but never watching it. The media did a few brief stories, Local teen vanishes on camping trip. That sort of thing. But without new leads, the coverage died down. People moved on, except Derek. He couldn't move on, because 2 weeks after Jason disappeared, Derek received a phone call. It came at 2:13 a.m. A blocked number, static on the line. Then Derek. It was Jason's voice. Hoarse, but unmistakable. "Help me. I don't know where I am." "Jason." Derek sat up, heart pounding. "Where are you?" There was no answer. Just heavy breathing. A crackling noise like wind. And then a strange sound in the background, something that didn't belong. A low, rhythmic knocking. Like wood against wood. Then the call dropped. Derek stared at his phone in disbelief. He tried calling back, but the number was blocked. He woke his parents, played the recording, but the sound was gone, erased from the logs. His phone showed no missed call, no voicemail. "Maybe it was a dream," his mum said, hugging him tight. You want to hear his voice so badly, but Derek knew he hadn't imagined it, because the next night, at 2:13 a.m., the call came again. The second call lasted only 40 seconds, but it was long enough to burn itself into Derek's memory. He sat in the dark, phone clutched so tightly in his hand that his knuckles ached. "Jason," Derek whispered when the line picked up the same hoarse breath. Then his brother's voice strained, as if dragged through gravel. "Derek, don't." The words cut off with a hiss of static. Derek's pulse hammered in his ears. "Jason, where are you? Tell me." There was a muffled sound, like someone shuffling barefoot on a wooden floor. Then a low thud, not random, rhythmic, a measured knock. Knock, knock, Jason. But his brother didn't answer. The call ended, leaving Derek staring at the black screen, his reflection faintly visible. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning, his mother looked even more worn down than the day before. Derek debated telling her, but the memory of her saying maybe it was a dream stopped him. She couldn't handle another false hope, so Derek stayed quiet instead. After school, he drove to Carter's house. Carter opened the door with a raised eyebrow. "You look like hell." "I got another call," Derek said. Carter's smirk vanished. "From Jason," Derek nodded. "Same time, same number. Only, it's not showing up in my phone log. Not even in the cache. Like it never happened." "Exactly." Carter pulled him inside and shut the door. "You know how crazy this sounds, right?" "Yeah," Derek admitted, running a hand through his hair. "But it happened." Carter studied him for a moment. "What did he say?" "Just my name, and don't." Like he was warning me. "Don't, what?" "I don't know." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Carter leaned forward. "That knocking sound you mentioned before, what was it like?" "Like wood. 3 knocks." Repeated. Carter frowned. "You ever hear of the wood knocks?" Derek shook his head. "Old Appalachian folklore. My uncle used to talk about it. They say the forest calls back to the people it wants, knocks on trees, leads you deeper. Folks who follow don't come back." "Folklore," Derek scoffed, though unease crawled up his spine. Carter gave him a hard look. "You tell me what's more likely. Your brother called from some working payphone in the middle of nowhere, or something in those woods isn't finished with him yet." The air between them grew heavy. Derek finally whispered, "I have to go back." Carter's eyes widened. "To the clearing?" "Are you out of your mind?" "I heard him, Carter. He's alive, somewhere out there. And if it's not him..." Derek didn't answer. That night, Derek packed a backpack, flashlight, knife, his old camping boots, a spare battery pack. He told his parents he was staying at Carter's. It wasn't entirely a lie. Carter had reluctantly agreed to come with him. They drove out just after midnight, Carter's beat-up truck rattling on the empty roads. The forest loomed darker than Derek remembered, a solid black mass against the faint starlight. "Still think this is a good idea?" Carter muttered as they parked near the trailhead. "No," Derek admitted, "but I don't have a choice." They hiked in silence. The trail was narrower than Derek remembered, branches clawing at their arms as if trying to hold them back. The deeper they went, the more wrong it felt. The air was heavy, still. No crickets, no owls, not even the rustle of leaves. When they finally reached the clearing, Derek's chest tightened. It was exactly as they had left it, grass flattened where their tents once stood. Ashes of the old fire pit scattered by wind, but there was something new at the far edge of the clearing. Carved into the bark of an oak tree were 3 vertical slashes fresh. "Jesus," Carter whispered. "That wasn't here before." Derek touched the grooves. The wood was raw, damp with sap. He glanced at Carter. 3, Derek said. 3 knocks, Carter replied. As if on cue, the sound echoed through the trees. Knock, 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 knock. They froze. It was close. Too close. "Probably a woodpecker," Carter said, though his voice shook. "In the middle of the night." Derek whispered. The knocks came again, louder this time. Derek gripped his flashlight. "We follow it." Carter grabbed his arm. "Ah. You insane? If Jason's out there, what if it's not Jason?" But Derek was already moving toward the sound. The forest swallowed them. The deeper they went, the harder it became to tell one tree from another. The knocks guided them, steady and patient. Derek felt pulled forward, like a hook in his chest. Then the knocking stopped. They stood in a small grove, moonlight filtering through the branches. In the center was something that made Derek's breath hitch. A phone, an old flip phone, balanced neatly on a stump. Carter muttered, "No way." Derek picked it up. The screen lit up instantly to 13 a.m. No service, yet the phone buzzed in his hand. "Incoming call, Jason, Terek." Single quotes, as heart nearly exploded out of his chest. He answered, voice breaking. "Jason." Static. Then a whisper, "Don't follow." The call ended, and the knocks began again. This time, they came from behind them. Carter spun with the flashlight. "We're leaving now." But Derek wasn't listening, because in the distance, beyond the trees, he saw it, a figure, tall, thin, standing just beyond the reach of the light. "Watching, Jason," Derek whispered. The figure didn't move. Then slowly, it raised its hand and knocked against a tree. Knock, 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 knock. For a moment, Derek couldn't breathe. The figure's hand lingered against the tree. The echo of those 3 knocks, still vibrating through the night air. "Derek," Carter hissed, yanking his sleeve. "We have to go." But Derek couldn't move. The figure stood just far enough, away that the flashlight beam barely touched its outline. It was tall, too tall, limbs unnaturally long, shoulders sloping. The face was obscured in shadow, but Derek swore he saw eyes glinting. Then it spoke. "Derek." Jason's voice. Carter swore under his breath. "That's not him." Derek stepped forward. "Jason, is that you?" The figure tilted its head. The motion was slow, deliberate. And then, in that same broken whisper, "Help me." Derek's heart screamed yes, but Carter's grip tightened. "It's luring you, don't you get it? This is exactly what your brother warned you about." The figure raised its arm again. Dot knock, dot knock, dot knock. The sound vibrated through Derek's bones. He didn't even notice he was moving until Carter shoved him back. Look, Carter pointed to the ground. At the base of the tree where the figure stood, the grass was wrong. Not flattened like footsteps, twisted, blackened as if burned. The rot spiraled outward in a perfect circle. The figure stepped closer. The light caught more of it. And Derek's stomach turned. It wasn't Jason. Its face was stretched, too smooth, too pale, like a wax mask with holes for eyes. Its jaw moved, but the lips didn't. The voice was inside Derek's head now. Help me. Carter yanked him toward the trail. Run. They tore through the forest, branches clawing at their skin. The knocks followed, impossibly close, though Derek didn't dare look back. His chest burned, lungs screaming for air. Finally, they stumbled into the clearing where their tents had once stood. Only now, the clearing wasn't empty. Tents, a campfire, sleeping bags, just as they'd left them 2 weeks ago. Derek froze. What the hell? Carter's face was pale. That's impossible. The tents weren't old or weathered. They looked fresh, as if no time had passed. Derek's hand shook as he unzipped one. Inside was a sleeping bag. Jason's, still neatly rolled, still smelling faintly of his brother's cologne. The phone in Derek's pocket buzzed. He pulled it out, the flip phone. The screen lit up again. 2:13 a.m. Incoming call. Jason. Carter shouted, "Don't answer." But Derek already had. Jason, his voice cracked. This time, no static. A clear whisper. "You shouldn't have come back." Tears pricked Derek's eyes. "Where are you? Tell me." The voice was weak, broken. "It's not me you're hearing. It's what took me." Derek's blood ran cold. "What? You need to leave. Before it chooses you, too." The call ended. The forest went silent. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, approaching from the trees. Carter grabbed Derek by the shoulders. "We're leaving now. I don't care what you think you heard." But Derek couldn't move, because through the shadows, Jason stepped into the clearing, or something wearing Jason's face. He looked the same messy brown hair, same hoodie he'd worn that night, but his eyes were wrong. Too dark, too empty. "Derek," he said softly, "you came." Derek's throat tightened. "Jason." Carter moved in front of him. "That's not your brother." Jason smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "You don't believe me?" He tilted his head. "Ask me anything. I'm still me." Derek's mind raced. Memories only Jason would know. He swallowed. "What did you carve into the tree behind Dad's shed when you were 10? Jason's smile widened. "Our initials, D+J." Derek's chest tightened. "That was true," Carter hissed. "Don't listen." Jason took a step closer. "I've been waiting for you. You can help me. Just follow." Knock, knock, knock. The sound came from inside the clearing now, from Jason's own hand striking a tree. Derek's stomach flipped. The voice on the phone. The warnings. The figure, it wasn't trying to scare him. It was trying to lure him. He stumbled back. "You're not him." Jason's face twisted, the smile stretching too wide, eyes blackening. The voice that came out now was no longer his brother's. "Then I'll take you to the ground beneath." Them shuddered. The tents, the fire, the bags, they flickered like a bad projection. For a heartbeat, Derek saw nothing but endless trees. No clearing, no path, just forest. Carter screamed, Run. They bolted. Derek didn't know how he found the trail. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe someone guided him. All he knew was that the knocks followed, closer and closer, until his legs burned and he thought he'd collapse. Then, suddenly, the trees thinned. The truck, the trailhead. They didn't stop running until they were inside. Doors locked, engine roaring. Carter peeled out, tires spitting gravel. Only then did Derek dare look back at the edge of the trees. A figure stood, watching. Not Jason, not exactly, but it had his smile. It's been a year since that night. Jason never came home. Search teams gave up. Police called it a runaway. My parents don't talk about him anymore, but I still get the calls. Always at 2:13 a.m. Always with his voice. And sometimes, when the line goes quiet, I hear it again: knock, 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 knock.
Welcome to the channel. Now I will tell you a very scary and true story. She thought living alone in her apartment would be peaceful. But soon, strange things began to happen. Things that couldn't be explained by logic or reason. Every night the silence was broken by noises she couldn't ignore, and what lurked in the shadows was watching her closely.
It was supposed to be a fresh start. After breaking up with his long-term girlfriend and leaving behind a dead-end job in Omaha, Daniel McKay, 29, relocated to the city of Evanhurst, a sleepy Midwestern place with wide streets, rusting streetlights, and old brick buildings that seemed to lean inwards as if whispering secrets to each other. He didn't know a soul there. And that was exactly what he wanted. He found a surprisingly cheap one-bedroom apartment on the third floor of a 5-story pre-war building called the Briarwood, tucked between an abandoned laundromat and a boarded-up deli. The online listing had almost no pictures, just a blurry shot of a hallway and a single line. Quiet tenants, good insulation, cash preferred. The price was too good to pass up, and Daniel wasn't in a place to be picky. The day he moved in, he noticed how quiet the place really was. No children running through the halls, no distant TVs blaring sitcom laugh tracks, no footsteps from the floors above or below. It wasn't peaceful, it was sterile. It felt like the entire building was waiting for something to happen. Daniel chalked it up to nerves. New place, new life. He'd settle in soon enough. But the silence lingered. He started noticing strange little things that first week, every evening. Around 10:30 p.m., a draft would pass through his living room, sharp and cold, though none of his windows were open. He assumed it came from the ventilation system. The apartment had a large wall vent near the ceiling, about the size of a pizza box, covered by a metal grate painted the same dull beige as the walls. It never blew warm or cold air. It just sat there. But sometimes, when everything was silent, no music, no TV, not even traffic, he could swear he heard soft noises from behind it, like fabric brushing against metal. Like someone slowly exhaling. He told himself it was just air pressure. Maybe the building had old pipes. Old places made noise. But then came the scratching. It started on a Thursday night. Daniel had just laid down, eyes adjusting to the dark. He was drifting, thoughts dissolving, when a sound snapped him back. Scratch, scratch. Pause, scratch. It came from the wall vent in the living room. He sat up in bed, heart thudding. The noise stopped. After a moment, he stood and crept toward the vent. The scratching didn't resume. Everything was still. The silence pressed against his ears like water under water. He stared at the vent's dark slats, feeling foolish. His own breath sounded loud in the quiet. He backed away, turned on a lamp, and stayed up scrolling through his phone for hours, trying to forget it. The following day, Daniel asked the building superintendent, an older man named Reed, if the place had rodents. Reed gave him a long, hard look before muttering, "Nope, never had that problem," and then walked off without another word. That night, Daniel put a pillow over his head and tried to sleep through it. The scratching returned at exactly 10:37 p.m. This time it was faint, irregular, like something testing the vent from the inside. The next morning, he removed the vent's front cover using a screwdriver. The metal was dusty but intact. No chew marks, no droppings. Just blackness beyond the Grayton old duct tunnel that disappeared leftward into the wall. He shone his phone flashlight into it, but it didn't reach far. The space beyond looked too narrow for anyone to crawl through. Still, that night, the sounds came back. By the fourth night, Daniel stopped sleeping entirely. It wasn't just the scratching anymore. Now there were whispers. Not full words, just a rhythmic hush-hush sound that rose and fell like breathing, like someone whispering through clenched teeth. It would start just after 10:30 and go on for hours. He recorded the sound with his phone, but when he played it back the next day, it was almost inaudible. A few static crackles, faint hissing, nothing definitive. He felt insane. At one point, he pressed his ear to the wall beneath the vent. The whispering stopped the moment his skin touched the paint. He sat there for minutes. Then, softly, he heard it again, closer this time, as if the voice had leaned toward him from inside. He flinched back, heart hammering, breath shallow. That weekend, Daniel tried to distract himself. He went to a bookstore, walked around downtown, sat in a coffee shop, people watching. But his mind kept drifting back to that cold apartment, that whispering vent. When he returned Sunday night, he stood in his living room and stared at the grate. Something felt different now. It wasn't just eerie or annoying. It felt deliberate. The noises, the patterns, the timing, they weren't random. It felt like someone was trying to communicate. He moved his bed into the far corner of the bedroom, away from the vent. He didn't sleep. Monday morning, he found something new. Lying on the carpet directly beneath the vent was a small object, a button. Old-fashioned, made of black glass with a tiny silver rim. It hadn't been there the night before. He picked it up, turned it over. Nothing on the back. No thread. It looked ancient, dirty. He threw it away, but it left a feeling behind, like it was meant to be found. That night, there were no sounds, no whispers, no scratching. Instead, just before he turned off the lights, he noticed something out of place. The vent cover was crooked, slightly ajar, tilted just enough to be noticed. He hadn't touched it in days. Daniel stood frozen, eyes locked on the vent, and in that moment he swore he saw a faint glimmer behind the slats. Something wet, something watching. When Matt woke up the next morning, the first thing he did was check the front yard. The figure was gone. No trace in the grass, no footprints, no disturbed gravel on the driveway. It was like nothing had ever happened. He even walked to the edge of the road, rubbing his arms against the early chill, scanning both directions of Cedar Lane. Still nothing. For a second, he almost convinced himself that maybe he'd imagined the whole thing. But the porch camera confirmed it hadn't been a dream. The figure, tall, unmoving, barely visible, stood there for over an hour, then simply disappeared off frame. The footage ended with static. Asterisk, asterisk. When he showed the clip to Sarah, she went pale. "That's not some prank, Matt. That's just ... wrong. It didn't move once." They both agreed not to tell Lily. She was only 10, and she already hated living in a house surrounded by woods. Still, something gnawed at Matt. It wasn't just the figure, it was the timing. Whoever that was had appeared just after they'd moved in. A coincidence? Maybe, but there was something else too, something he couldn't name yet. He set up the porch camera to alert his phone with any motion during the night. That night, he didn't sleep well. The wind howled louder than usual. Floorboards creaked. Every few hours, he checked his phone. Nothing, but at 3:14 a.m., he was jolted awake by a ding. Motion detected. He grabbed his phone and opened the camera feed. The same figure stood in the yard. Same height, same posture. This time, it was closer, maybe 20 feet from the steps, just standing there. Matt's heart thudded against his ribs. He turned on the porch light remotely. The figure didn't flinch. He got out of bed, pulled on jeans and a hoodie, and grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Against all common sense, he opened the front door slowly and stepped out onto the porch. But the yard was empty. No sound, no movement. The porch light buzzed quietly above him. He panned the flashlight across the lawn. The trees loomed like sentinels in the dark dot. Gonbat backed inside and bolted the door. He reviewed the camera footage again. The figure was there one moment, then gone in the next frame. The transition wasn't a fade or a movement. It was like it had cut away, as if something didn't want to be recorded the next day. He tried calling the previous owner Ben something. No answer. The voicemail said the number was disconnected. That felt ... deliberate. Matt searched the property's history online. The house had been listed 3 times in the last 6 years. Each time, the owners moved out within a year. He asked around the neighborhood, but Cedar Lane didn't have many full-time residents. Just a few retirees and seasonal families who weren't back yet. Only one neighbor seemed open to talking. A woman in her 70s named Mrs. Ellison, who lived across the street. When he mentioned the figure, her face hardened. "You're seeing it too, huh?" she said, voice low. Asterisk, asterisk. Matt blinked. "Wait, so you've seen something like that?" Mrs. Ellison hesitated. "Not me, but my grandson. Years ago, he was 10. We were watching a movie, and he looked out the window and said, 'Who's that man standing in the trees?'" Her voice broke a little. That night, he woke up screaming. Said the man came to his window. We thought it was night terrors, but he wouldn't sleep in that house again. We moved out 2 months later. Matt asked if she knew anything else, any stories, rumors, anything at all. She gave him a wary look. "Some say there was an old road that used to run through here, long before the houses were built, that someone died on it. Others talk about a boy who went missing from that property in the 70s. But the stories, they're all foggy. People don't like talking about Cedar Lane. That's all I can tell you." That night, Matt sat up, watching the live camera feed. It was a still, cloudless night. At 3:09 a.m., motion alert. He opened the feed. The figure was now on the porch, directly facing the door. For a full 30 seconds, Matt couldn't breathe. His whole body felt locked in place. He crept to the living room, where the porch door had a small, curtainless window. From behind the wall, he slowly peeked out. No one. He checked the camera again. Still there, but nothing visible to the eye. He tried to screenshot it and his phone froze. The screen glitched, then shut off. When he rebooted it, the camera feed was gone. Device not responding. In the morning, he checked the camera physically. It had melted. The plastic casing was warped like it had been pressed to an open flame. The SD card inside had fused. He didn't have an explanation. Sarah begged him to leave for a few days, but something inside him wouldn't allow it. He needed to know what this thing was, why it was there, why it had come for him. That night, he sat outside on the porch with a flashlight, a thermos of coffee, and a baseball bat. He was done hiding at 2:57 a.m. The air changed. It got heavy, like the atmosphere before a tornado. Still, too still. Then, a creaking sound came from the left side of the house near Lily's window. Matt stood slowly, tightening his grip on the bat. He moved off the porch, stepping carefully into the yard. Then he saw it, standing by the edge of the trees, closer than ever before. It raised one hand and pointed toward him. That's when he heard Lily scream. He ran. The wind had picked up again, whistling through the thin cracks in the cabin walls like a warning. Patrick sat in silence, his back to the boarded-up window, the fire nearly out. He clutched the old leather-bound journal he'd taken from the cellar, the one he wasn't sure he should have touched. Inside. It wasn't written in English. The text was a mix of symbols and an archaic dialect, but some pages had annotations in pencil, scribbled years later. They were translations, and what little he could decipher turned his blood cold. It lives in reflection. The older the mirror, the deeper it reaches. Do not speak its name aloud. Do not acknowledge the figure. It comes at dusk. It always knocks first. Patrick thought about the antique mirror in the bedroom upstairs. The one he'd seen covered in dust, still hanging crooked on the wall. He hadn't paid attention to it before, but now his mind wouldn't let it go. He flipped another page. She looked. She shouldn't have looked. The child followed next. Windows are its second path. He stood up and moved instinctively to the fireplace, tossing the journal into the remaining embers. It sparked violently, then dimmed to black. Patrick didn't care if it was important. Something about that book felt wrong. Heavy cursed. He checked his phone again. Still no signal. Outside, the wind wasn't just wind anymore. It carried something, a rhythm, a pattern. Knock, knock, knock. Patrick froze. It wasn't at the door, it was at the window. 3 knocks, then silence. He didn't move, didn't breathe. He remembered the writing. It knocks first. Slowly, he backed away toward the staircase, not daring to glance over his shoulder. He thought about calling out, but to who? There was a long silence, just the fire crackling faintly and the wind howling beyond. And then knock, knock, knock. Again. But this time, from the second story, from the bedroom. He was shaking now. Not from cold, but from something deeper, primal. The kind of fear that you didn't learn, but inherited. The kind that lived in your bones. Don't look at the window, he whispered to himself, over and over. Don't look at the window. He needed to leave, right now. But the front door wouldn't budge. He tried forcing it open, but it felt like it had been sealed shut from the outside. He thought about breaking a window, but the idea of touching the glass filled him with a sick sort of dread. So he grabbed the axe, the same one he'd seen resting against the wall, on his first day there. He swung it into the doorframe, wood, cracking with each hit. By the third strike, he'd cut through enough to try prying it open. But just as he made a gap wide enough to slip through, he heard footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. Then a creak. The bedroom door had opened. Patrick dropped the axe. Whoever or whatever was up there, it was now moving toward the staircase. The wooden steps groaned, one by one. It was descending, fast, not with urgency. Patrick backed away from the door, stumbling toward the far wall. He glanced around in desperation and spotted the crawlspace panel near the floor. He hadn't noticed it before. With a last burst of adrenaline, he pulled it open and crawled inside, dragging the panel shut behind him. He was in pitch black, dirt under his palms, dust choking his breath. He heard the final step creak. Whatever it was on the ground. Floor now. He covered his mouth with both hands. It was walking slowly, as if scanning the room. Then, silence, and then whispers coming from all directions, surrounding the crawl space. Not loud, not angry, just ... curious, like something trying to remember him ... or decide if he was worth noticing. One whisper floated closer than the others. Double quotes, Patrick ... You looked, didn't you? His heart nearly stopped, then dash knock. Knock, knock, from the inside of the crawlspace panel. He wanted to scream, but didn't. He stayed still. He didn't answer, didn't move. He had no idea how long he stayed there. Minutes, hours. Eventually, he passed out. Patrick was found 2 days later by a pair of hikers who stumbled upon the cabin. The door was ajar, the fireplace cold. No sign of forced entry, no sign of any damage, except for the shattered antique mirror upstairs. He was dehydrated, shaking uncontrollably, muttering fragments about knocking and mirrors. Doctors labeled it a psychotic break brought on by isolation and stress, but Patrick refused to speak of what he saw. He wouldn't stay in any room with a mirror or a window without curtains, and he never went near the woods. Again, the cabin still stands, but the owners stopped renting it out. No one talks about why, but if you ever walk past it on a cold, windy evening, you might hear 3 soft knocks ... at the window ... and if you're smart, you won't look.